So many people sit on the sidelines from starting a company, and I always hear this, I need more experience, or I need this. And I think experience is the most overrated prerequisite to starting a company or being successful. The more people you know, the more people who love you, the more opportunities are going to come your way in life.
Serial entrepreneur Jeff Fenster.
Jeff Fenster, CEO of Everbowl, founder of 14 companies. This dude is crushing the game.
Named one of the top 100 entrepreneurs in America under the age of 35, top 40 executive under 40.
He's the guy that knows everyone and knows how to keep a good relationship with everyone.
About 80 to 90% of all the wealth I've created in my life comes from who I know, not what I know. I'm not a transactional salesperson. I'm a relationship-based salesperson. If you go through life trying to lead with value and help as many people, you start to get this thing that others will call luck.
If you're always giving, it's going to come around back to you. And if you're always taking,
It's going to come around.
what do you do when someone doesn't show gratitude for something you've done for them? Do you still reinvest in the relationship?
Of course. Until they break one of my non-negotiables.
What are those?
I have a lot of answers for this question.
So I'd like to start off with just a little bit about your background. Where you from, where'd you grow up, and how you actually made your first move into your first company.
Sure. Born and raised here in San Diego. Family immigrated from Canada, so I was the first American born. Dad was a doctor, mom was a teacher. Grew up really wanting to be a professional athlete, so played a lot of sports. Fun fact, wasn't good enough. So went to University of Arizona, Bear Down, for undergrad, and went to law school to be a sports agent. And that was kind of going to be my career. I was going to be the next Jerry Maguire, had a job lined up at Lee Steinberg Sports Agency, and thought, hey, this is going to be my future. I won't play sports, but I'll be around it. And my third year of law school, met the woman who's my wife, had a kid, and ultimately decided I didn't want to travel the world representing grown-ups. I wanted to actually be a present dad. So graduated law school, needed to figure out what I was going to do for a living, and so I got a job selling payroll for a company called ADP, which is a
Big
global
payroll company. Yeah.
big payroll company. And I was really good at it. I utilized the concept of relationship capital, which I've used throughout my career, but really honed on that kind of skill set to help me use solution-based selling and make friends with more people and sell. And 6 months there, number one sales rep in the country out of 2,000 sales reps, made President's Club, made a lot of money, bought a house, my first house in San Diego, moved my fiance and daughter in, and I thought that was going to be my career. Hey, I'll be an outside sales rep, working 3 days a week, golfing twice a week, enjoying life. And when I took the job, I got a $38,000 base salary plus commission, and that's not enough to pay your bills. And so in my contract, it said if you sell X, you'll get a $17,000 pay increase, and your salary will go to $54,000. So I sold X. I did it in 6 months, and I went to my boss in January and said, her name was Ashley, and I said, Ashley, I delivered. When do I get my raise? And she told me you get it at the end of the fiscal year. And for me, that was June, so I'd get it in July. And for me, that was like a prison sentence. Like her saying those words to me just felt like almost like a rock was landing on my chest, and I couldn't breathe. And I just saw my future of this whole life where I'll go work really hard, deliver results, but I won't get the fruit of that, that effort until some date when they tell me, hey, now you get it. And went home, kind of was disheveled, told my fiance, hey, I want to quit my job, sell the house, move in with my parents, and I'll start my own payroll company because I can sell this, so why not? And I went in, threatened to quit if they didn't give it to me. They called my bluff. So I quit my job, sold the house, moved in with my parents, and started my first payroll company out of my mom's kitchen called iChecks. And that was kind of my first taste of entrepreneurship, if you will. I never thought of myself of entrepreneurship. I never even knew the word entrepreneur. There were business owners and employees, and I just really had a chip on my shoulder. I was 24, young dad, pissed off at the world, especially ADP, and I put a target of ADP and said, all right, I'm just going to go get all my clients, start my own company, because how hard can it be? That was it. Dumb, young, and ignorant.
Great story. So how hard was it?
It was very hard. Way harder than I thought it was going to be. It was easy to sell, much harder to operate and support and actually build a company. And I made so many mistakes, especially because back then, this was before social media was really a thing. I mean, there was MySpace. Facebook might have just been coming online. YouTube wasn't really there. The internet was still kind of early in adoption phase where we used email, but if you remember back in the early 2000s, most businesses hadn't really fully adopted internet outside of e-commerce. So you didn't have YouTube videos to go learn, like, how do I do this and how do I do that? I didn't have a smartphone with apps. So it was a lot of, trial by fire. And we figured it out one step in front of the other. You start to understand who can you lean on. You lean on mentors, you lean on advisors, you lean on coaches, you lean on family friends. You make mistakes, you fix them quickly, and you keep going. But the company ended up working out well. We figured out a niche in the payroll and HR world, which was if you think of HR back then, it was a lot of filing folder cabinets. Everything was handwritten. If you applied for a job, you filled out an actual paper application. And this was all getting digitized. So we built an HRIS platform, a human resource information system technology, which brought everything to the internet, and we're able to deliver that to these businesses. So it ended up working out well, and I sold it at the end of 2011, which was my first exit. And I got my MBA through the School of Hard Knocks during that process. We raised capital from some private equity firms. And so I got exposed to how you need to really think about scaling a business. What are the challenges? What goes through? You can't just hustle forever as an entrepreneur. Like, you've really got to start to build systems and understand how to protect your business from all of the threats. And so, it was challenging, but it was really a lot of fun.
Okay, so tell me more about the journey at iChecks.
Sure.
So, it sounds so you were the sole founder, right?
No, one of my best friends co-founded it with me.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got him to quit the job at ADP and join me.
Oh.
I was like, "You're quitting. Let's go do this."
So did they get pissed off with you guys?
They did once I started to steal my clients.
Did you get any lawsuits?
Not a lawsuit, but a lot of threats.
Okay.
And it was not a lot of threats, a few threats.
Okay.
But they're such a big company.
Yeah.
And they were like, just go away.
Yeah.
And I was pissed. And it was.
How long did it take you to build the company up?
So I quit my job in beginning of February of 2008. Company launched March of 2008, and we sold it at the end of 11. So 9, 10, 11, a little over 3 years.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was quick.
Great.
Okay. It was good. It was sales were easy because I'm really good at sales.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a funny story. So we're a payroll company. Very first time, go out, sell a bunch of clients. We're about to run our very first payroll for all these clients, a couple hundred people in San Diego. So we print all the checks. We got them all delivered to all the companies. We're in my office, and we have in our office, in a room in my parents' house. But we're in our office, and we're kind of having a celebratory moment, me, him, and my fiance, and we're all just hanging out. First phone call comes on a Friday afternoon. "Hey, Jeff, one of our employees said the check that they got wouldn't cash." We're like, "That's weird. Don't know." Another phone call, another phone call, another phone call. And now we're like, uh-oh. Come to find out, and we didn't know this because, again, there was no YouTube. Back then, banks printed checks with what's called micro ink, which has a magnetic part of the ink. So you can't just go to Office Depot and get a printer cartridge and print checks at home.
Is that
I didn't know, of course, because I didn't know. So we printed all these literally fake checks and delivered them to all of these employees for our very first time running payroll on behalf of all of these clients. It was a nightmare. So we got a list of everyone's banks. We personally went and deposited checks in as many as we could. We delivered checks to people's homes. We did everything we could to save it. Luckily, no one left us, but that was our very first time running payroll, which goes to show you don't need experience because you're going to make mistakes. It's just how you fix them, right? And it was just okay, now we learned micro ink.
Yeah.
So now you put that on your list. And so just from there, you just kind of keep building and building, and you learn how to do these things. I think so many people sit on the sidelines from starting a company, and I always hear this, I need more experience, or I need this. And I think experience is the most overrated prerequisite to starting a company or being successful, because we can sit here and talk about it. You can read about it in school. You can come work with me and learn about it. But until you're in the fire, until you're doing it, that's what it's about. And entrepreneurship is being a problem solver, right? You've got to solve the totality of problems you're going to deal with. And if you can stay ahead of them with viable solutions that allow you to propel forward, you win.
Yeah.
If you can't, you're going to lose.
I don't know if you know, but my current company is Roomy.ai. It's an AI company. We're building video conferencing software. And what's interesting is that we're going up against Zoom.
Yep.
And we're starting from scratch. Well, we're 3 years old now. But we literally started with nothing, and we've built a full-stack video conferencing platform that's in some ways got better features and more features than not more, but like better features and differentiated features. And it's always interesting when people chat to me like, "How can you take on Zoom?" I was like, "Well, it took us a while." But once you get going, and I knew nothing about video conferencing when I started the company.
Sure.
And
how does AI play into it?
Well, we use AI to analyze the conversation and recommend action items, to-do lists, things.
That's brilliant.
You can be able to push it into your to-do list, summaries at the end of the meeting, minutes of the meetings, that sort of thing. So
that's brilliant.
AI listening to every conversation and helping you reorganize your life. And that we've launched a lot of these AI features before Zoom. Zoom's trying to do some of it now, but you go up against a big giant as a small company, and it's tough because you just don't have the infrastructure, you don't have the people, the resources, but you get very innovative about the things you build, the features you add.
And you have some advantages.
Yeah.
I don't think enough entrepreneurs realize what advantages you do have. And I use the analogy like boats, that Zoom, ADP, they're big cruise ships or big aircraft carriers, which means they'll run you over.
Yep.
The water's not going to bother them. The storms aren't going to bother them. But they can't turn that boat very quickly.
They can't catch you either.
And they can't catch you, which means as an entrepreneur or startup, we're on a little dinghy.
Yep.
So we can zig in, zig out, get the hell out of the way, avoid the icebergs, try things that they can't try yet, implement things that they can't, be first mover, see if it works, pivot, adapt. So if you don't use those strengths, because if you just tried to copy Zoom, you'd lose.
You'd lose, exactly.
You're just going to lose. But because you're bringing AI to it, because you're bringing all these new features and these new things that they can't turn on overnight,
exactly,
you're going to get adoption, and then they'd rather buy you.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't want to sell to Zoom, but yeah.
But I'm saying,
I get it. Totally.
You're going to grow to a size where it's like someone is going to want to buy you.
Absolutely.
And that's how you get to sell these companies.
Yeah. That's how tech's built in the Valley. People you have to out-innovate the incumbents.
That's right.
It's innovator's dilemma.
Yes.
Jay Christensen all over again.
Innovator's dilemma.
So you built this company. You sold it. Can you say how much you sold it for?
I can sell. We sold it to a company in Florida called Mangrove.
Okay.
Good numbers.
And nothing. So what did you do with the cash? That's the question.
Well, so fun fact. This is where I got my MBA.
Okay.
School of Hard Knocks. So we raised private equity early on in the company because I borrowed $20,000 from my dad to start the company.
Okay.
That was our investor, and then we ended up raising $1.2 million from a private equity firm, and then another $800,000 and another private equity firm. During the process, because we were 24, 25-year-old, me and my partner, hungry, loving entrepreneurship, we kept spending money at the direction of the private equity firm. Like we opened another office. We had 2 offices now, one in San Diego, one in Orange County. We hired a CTO for a very high salary, a chief technology officer to help us build out the technology. We hired consultants and marketers, and we built a staff and all these expenses that kept staying a little bit higher than our revenue. So if we made $1, we spent $1.20. We ran out of money. Don't worry, guys. The business is great. We'll put more money in. Of course. Small dilution. You don't have your share, right? No? Okay, well, we'll put your share in, but we'll just take a little more equity. We're like, great. The company's growing. Look at our revenues. This is awesome. They're the best partner in the world.
Yeah.
Well, when you sell and you realize you only own this instead of this, it's not as nice anymore. So I didn't make nearly the kind of money I expected. The company sold for a very good number. I made some money, enough to, buy the house another house and pay off a mortgage and build a pool, but not enough to sit on a beach in Tahiti and do nothing on my private yacht, which at the time is what I was hoping was going to happen. Yeah. I had those visions, realizing now I would never be able to do those things. I'm too type A strong, high strung, and need to go build more companies. But it was frustrating because it was like, oh my gosh, we just got sucker punched. Like we sold our company. It's a resume win. It's a bank account single, double. But if you look at how many hours we spent and how much effort, energy, and blood, sweat, and tears we put into this business, it just wasn't worth it. I mean, that's not fair. It was worth it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. On that point, like I always say, I don't want to go back and change anything in my life. Because you change anything, it changes where you are. And I'm happy where I am.
That's true.
And so if I made other choices, I may not be here.
I mean, that's a really good point. I never thought about it like that, but I think that's exactly right. I mean, I'd say I would change it, but as I said to you, I got my MBA from the School of Hard Knocks. I learned what not to do and how to structure my companies today, where today my companies are structured very differently. I get to make all the choices.
Yeah.
I have private equity investors. They don't have control of my company. I won't give it up. I'm going to maintain control whether I own 1 share or I own 99.9% of it. That's how I'm going to do it. And I understand and got to see how private equity works, how scale works, how you sell a company, what people look for during a due diligence phase, what getting audited and getting a SAS 70 audit, what's required with that, and all these big things that I was 25 years old. I mean, most 25-year-olds don't have a clue what those terms are. They're just out there hustling in their industry. And so I got exposed to a lot. I got to see other businesses and build more relationship capital that I got to utilize. And like I said, put a check on the resume for future investors and future opportunities. So it was good. It made me realize that I love the startup phase of business. I do not like the latter phase of business as much, meaning once a company hits a certain size, I'm no longer the best guy to be running it. Yeah. I've really figured out, like, I'm really good if you and me are sitting here and we come up with a new idea. I'm great. Like, you want me on your team or you want me leading the charge. But once we get to a certain size, whether it's, mid 8 figures and it's more optimization, it's more minor tweaks, and we're not rocking the boat.
HR, people, all that stuff. I know. I'm with you on that.
It's time to hire people.
Yeah. So after that, what did you do?
I started my first company in the beginning of the Great Recession. So it was 2008. So very tough financial climate and interesting time to be doing it, but we were able to navigate it and pivot. I also simultaneously in 2010, or end of 2009, beginning of 2010, started a recruiting agency just to help my current payroll clients, because I made money the more checks you paid at your company, and people couldn't hire because it was the great financial crisis. So the unemployment pool was really large. A lot of people were unemployed, and if you had a job, you weren't leaving. So my growth companies, my clients that were growing, one of their biggest challenges was we can't hire. We have all these open positions, but we really can't find talent. And I want them to hire because if they hire, I get to cut another check and I make more money. And it's another user on my system. And so I said, okay, well, why don't we help them hire? Because we're working with all these clients. We're a payroll and HR company. We'll make a little bit of money helping them, and we'll make more money on the back end.
So is this a separate company you set up?
A separate company, but it was kind of vertically integrated. I only initially served my current iChecks, and we became Canopy HR, but our payroll and HR clients. That's who we served.
How did you structure the company? Given was it the same shareholders in both companies?
No, just no shareholders in this company.
Okay, so you just owned this one, and you were selling it to the iChecks
Correct.
customer base.
So you'd be an iCheck client,
Okay.
and you'd be needing it, and I'd be like, well, talk, and I hired somebody, but you would talk to someone on our team. They would understand what your recruiting needs were, and we'd go out and try to recruit for you. And if we deliver somebody, we made money.
That's great.
And then iChecks made more money. So it was my first taste of vertical integration, in a weird offset way. And so after I sold Canopy HR, we sold that to Voight 6 weeks later.
Okay.
7 weeks later. Didn't need it. Didn't want it anymore. And then it was the year that then my head was huge. My ego was big, and I thought I had the Midas touch. And so I started 2 companies that were colossal failures.
Okay. Tell me about those.
Yeah, one was called Equity Circle. So I wanted to legalize equity-based crowdfunding.
Okay.
Because of my bad private equity experience, I said, instead of me raising millions of dollars from these very sophisticated sharks that are in it to make money and they have their model, what if I raised $1,000 from 100 people or 1,000 people, and I could raise it that way where each person can put a little bit in, and I know all these friends and people, and it's lower risk for them, and I still raise the amount of capital I want, but there's not one big shareholder. It was illegal back then.
It was pre-Reg D?
Pre-Reg D, that's right. So there was experiential crowdfunding platforms, kind of like Kickstarter and stuff, where you could give experiences but no equity. And so we started a company called Equity Circle. We were going to build a platform that was going to connect entrepreneurs and people like you and me or anyone who wants to invest, micro-invest. And we had a change.org petition. We started the lead the charge to help legalize it, help educate people and get them to, sign our petitions and really get involved. And spent 6 figures of my own money to do this thing and helped legalize it. Once it got legal, I realized while I was out there at the tip of the iceberg or sword fighting the good fight, other people were building cool technology that kicked mine's ass overnight.
Yeah.
And so I helped legalize it, but that's all I did. And I realized I was dead in the water. So that was a failure. And I had another company called Sports Investing Systems where we had an algorithm that worked really well for sports betting, like really well. So it was a subscription-based sports betting company. And we did a lot of stuff, and I was flying to Vegas every day and making these investments and building content back then at the early days. This is 2012, so not like it is as easy as
This is the
today.
days of like DraftKings and
Before them.
Betfair. Okay, before them.
Yeah, well, at the onset of them.
Okay.
This was not fantasy based. This was like, but these were models. Like we used back testing, and we didn't have AI back then, but we had a lot of data.
So you'd aggregate some cash, and then go in.
Yeah, and it was basically like when these metrics hit, like if an NFL football team loses 2 games in a row when they're favored, and they've lost the 2 games at home and against the spread, meaning both of those, the statistical probability that they're going to win their next game is very high. Like little fun algorithmic things like that as an example. Okay. And we started to try to build a subscription model and do all these things, and spent a lot of money on content, a lot of money advertising, and I just never was able to turn it into anything. So it was just another failure. And I was like, okay, 2-0,
So
and now
your ego's a bit crushed down.
Yeah, now I'm 2-0, and now I'm 0-2.
2-2.
Yeah, but ended 2-2. But I started 2-0, and now I'm 0 for my next 2. I'm like, okay, so it's not as easy as I thought, huh? And then my youngest was born, and I realized I wanted to work from a computer. I didn't want to travel. I figured internet did really well, so why not start a digital marketing agency? So I started a digital marketing agency. I partnered with a guy named Neil Patel.
I remember Neil.
Yep.
So I did old school SEM.
SEO?
Back in the day.
SEO?
So 2003.
Oh.
I started SEM. It's still around today. It's called Incubator.
Yeah.
And It's owned by the Carlyle Group now,
Mm-hmm.
but I started at my bedroom in 2003. So I was in the search engine marketing space for a long time. I remember Neil.
Yeah.
So he's local, in San Diego.
LA.
LA, okay.
Yeah, he was in Vegas. Now he's back in LA. But
Okay.
he co-founded Kissmetrics,
Yeah,
Hello Bar,
yeah.
Crazy Egg,
Yeah.
Uber Search.
He was with Hitton Shaw, right? Wasn't
Yeah.
he? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I know
Hitton's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So, which company did you start? What was it called?
It was a concierge marketing service. So it was called JFen. It was just called JFen Holdings. But basically what I did was I went back to all of the clients I had sold payroll and HR services to, all my bigger clients, and the ones that hadn't yet figured out that the internet was how their business had to adapt, because it was 2012. The last remaining incumbents that had yet to figure out how to utilize the internet, that were still sending out catalogs and still making most of their money offline. And I walked Neil and myself in, and they already had a relationship with me, and we quickly grew. And then obviously with Neil's brand and Neil's reputation, it was a shooting fish in a barrel.
So you're very good at selling to existing. Share of wallet is your business, right? You build these amazing relationships with people over long periods of time, and you just keep selling good stuff to them.
Because if you build trust,
Yeah.
which is what you need to do if you want to be really good in sales.
Yep.
You use solution-based selling, where you're not trying to peddle things they don't need, but you actually give them solutions that will solve real problems. And you stay connected and friends. Why wouldn't they want to buy from me? They trust me. They know I'm not going to screw them. They know if I give them a service, it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to push something on you that you don't want or need.
Okay.
So it worked. And so, I was very good at doing that. And then obviously with Neil's brand, we were able to walk
So now
into...
you're 3-2.
Now I'm 3-2.
So now where'd you go? What is next?
I semi-retired.
Okay.
Driving my wife and kids crazy.
Happens to the best of us.
Happens to the best of us. Yeah, about 6 months of that. And my wife said, get out of the house.
Yeah.
You're driving us crazy. So I started a company called Everbowl, which, I decided to tackle the food industry. And I really...
Why?
Because 2 reasons. Outside of my family and business, health and wellness is my biggest passion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid of disease.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's easier to prevent illness than cure it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I looked at, why are we killing ourselves with heart disease, stroke, obesity, cancer, diabetes, hypertension, like all these conditions. And you find out that 80% of these are preventable or delayable with lifestyle, which means we all know somebody who's dealing with one of those. 80% of the time, they don't have to be dealing with it today or potentially ever. Now, 20% is genetic. You're going to deal with it. There's nothing we can do. But for that 80, which is the majority, we can delay or prevent these illnesses that are killing us. Why aren't we doing that? So why are they happening? And you realize it's because they eat fast food 3.2 times a week. They leave a sedentary lifestyle where they don't move their bodies. So I was like, okay, how do I do something bigger with my life? How do I have an impact that might make the world a better place? Because I genuinely believe that if everyone takes care of their health and feels good, they're going to perform good at whatever they do. If they're a policeman or woman, they're going to be the better version of that. If they're a teacher, they're going to teach our youth better. If they're an entrepreneur, they're going to make their companies cooler. And we're going to have cooler technologies like your new AI-based video conferencing technology, which I want to use, right? Okay. But if you get sick and don't do it, I don't get that technology. So it's selfish, but it's also helping everybody else. So the world's going to be better if everyone's healthy and we get rid of disease as much as we can.
Let's talk about the menu.
Sure.
So how did you guys think about the menu, and how did you put the products in there? And the reason I say that is I'm a huge advocate against seed oils.
Okay.
I think seed oils are really, really bad for you.
Yep.
And there's tons of research going to the omega-3, omega-6 profiles in humans.
Yep.
Some anti-seed oils, very anti-processed foods in general. Obviously, when you travel, you can't avoid it in certain places. But when I'm in town, I'm very, very strict in where I go, what I eat. Try and keep pretty much a whole food diet. It's
great.
And I'm very similar to you. I'm very much against. I'll show you my supplement collection sometime.
I would love to see.
I'm going to do an episode on my supplements. I take 50 or 60 pills a day, and it's just supplementation. It's just basic stuff.
But your body needs it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it allows you to perform good.
Exactly, and and when it comes to my blood tests, and I do screenings all the time, and I'm very, very anti. Well, I'm trying to make sure I never get a disease that is preventable.
Yes.
Right? So
and live as long as you can.
Yeah.
Right. I want to live to be 200.
Yeah. Well, you see, I have a different view on that. I don't want to live to be 200.
Why not?
Because for me, it's not the length of my life; it's the quality.
But if you can be as healthy as you are today to be 200, don't you want to do that?
I don't know, man. When you get 200, you start looking really fragile.
But what if you don't, though? That's my question. What if
you can reverse aging, or you can slow it down? Delay it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of the reverse aging thing. I think it's very difficult to do it. And,
sure.
But you can. If I could look like I'm 80 or 70 at 200, sure,
That's what I'm after.
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
believe technology and AI is going there because I follow a lot of the longevity experts.
Yeah.
Dr. David Sinclair out of Harvard is a guy I follow a ton. And
So you take NAD?
I don't take NAD. I do take metformin.
Okay.
As one of the supplements I
Really?
do take.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't take NAD because I don't know. I'm not yet there.
Mm-hmm.
I do my own research.
Do you watch Brian Johnson stuff and
sure.
follow him in Blueprint and stuff like that?
Absolutely.
So, like, I'm into a lot of that stuff, and I've been very much steering away from the prescription medication.
Okay. Well, metformin shouldn't be a prescription.
I know, but like it's synthetic stuff, right? So I'm trying to stay away from as much. But metformin's fine for a lot of people.
Well, metformin's a diabetic medication, which, this is how they figured it out. They did a study of diabetics, and they compared diabetics on metformin, diabetics not on metformin, against non-diabetics not on metformin. And the group that lived the longest was the diabetics on metformin, which... And then they did it in 22...
Because it prevents insulin hyperinsulinemia.
That's right.
And so that is a really good reason to take it. If you can't get your insulin under control through diet, metformin makes a big difference.
But even if you can, they did it with 22 mammals that don't live as long as humans.
Okay.
And all mammals that they tested with metformin live longer than the same mammal without it. Dogs, cats,
David
birds.
Freeberg was talking about this as well on the All In podcast one time. So
I don't know if I heard his episode.
I need to spend more time looking into this. I've always just had this allergic reaction against anything that's a prescription medication.
Fair.
So I'll spend more time on it. But okay, so before we
we'll go into that. Yeah, we'll geek out
let's
forever.
go back into the bowl.
Yeah.
Okay, so what goes into the bowl?
Well, it starts with acai.
Okay.
That's the main product we launched on. So
where do you source it from?
Brazil.
Okay.
Yep,
and is
I
it
have my
organic?
own. Oh yeah.
Okay.
So back in 2007, I started to import my own acai because you couldn't get it anywhere. I had a bowl. I was like, this is great. There was no places to get it. So I was ordering acai to my house. There was always in my freezer, and I'd make them. And now, fun fact, I know nothing about restaurants.
Sure.
So when I started Everbowl, it was really just because I wanted to have an acai bowl option. I just didn't think that Jamba Juice wasn't doing it. Smoothie King wasn't doing it. So you couldn't get them. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. They're so good. Every single one of my friends, whoever came over, whoever tried it, loved it. And there was a few places that I'd been to in America that sold acai bowls, but it wasn't mainstream. And I'm like, well, I'll make it. Why not? So I told my wife and my family, I'm going to start this restaurant. And I didn't have a name. I didn't have a menu. I was actually in Poway, California, visiting one of my ex-digital marketing clients. And I went to Smoothie King to get a smoothie, and they were literally closing down. The owner was moving things from the store into his car and said Friday's his last day, he's retiring, and no one bought his Smoothie King business, his franchise, because he was selling it for too much. So I was like, well, you've been here for 20 years. Can I have the landlord's name and number? He said yes. Contacted the landlord, signed a lease the next week.
Great.
And now I have a location. So now let's figure out a menu, let's figure out a name. And we kind of went through that process and
now you have over 350 stores.
Sold, yeah.
That's amazing. So, and is that franchised?
It is now. It was never going to franchise. COVID, I had 28 of my own, and then I started franchising.
And so the whole basis is that obviously a breakfast, a lunch? What type of meal?
People eat acai in superfood bowls differently.
Okay.
I thought when I opened it was going to be a breakfast.
Okay.
That was my hypothesis. I'm like, we're going to be really busy for breakfast, maybe a little bit of lunch, and that's it. It's not how people eat acai. It's mainly a lunch food. So it's our busiest time is about 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock.
So it's basically just, I've had acai bowls before. It's basically just the frozen berries and you kind of make it into like a sorbet-ish type
Correct.
Consistency. And then what do you put? Granola, bananas?
Yeah, whatever you want.
So it's basically just a very whole food based approach to eating.
Exactly right.
Like right now, I typically do more like carnivore-ish diet, animal-based. So the kefirs, the raw milks, the raw cheeses.
So you staying away from fruit?
No, fruit I have.
Okay,
I have fruit like 2 or 3 times a day.
You stay away from vegetables?
I do.
Okay.
The vegetable stuff, I'm
gonna have to geek out and get you back to vegetables. But
I'll have a few. Avocado I see as a fruit, and tomatoes is more of a fruit as well. So
sure,
I'll have those, but maybe a little bit of asparagus. But I stay away from things like spinach.
Okay.
It's got very high in oxalates.
Yep.
And that's not very good for you. And I've gone through some oxalate dumping problems before. So
I'm on the other side of that coin.
Are you?
I have a spinach, banana, blueberry smoothie every single day if I can.
So here's the challenge for you.
Okay.
Take 30 days and have 0 oxalates for 30 days and see how you feel.
Okay.
Go on if you get kidney stones, for example, they put you on a low oxalate diet.
Yeah.
So because what happens is the oxalic acid in spinach binds with calcium, so it deprives your body of calcium, and the calcium can form kidney stones for some people. But it lines in the tissue of your body, right?
Okay.
So when you switch over to a diet that takes an oxalates to a diet with no oxalates, your body releases those oxalates, and a whole bunch of weird stuff starts happening. Now, I'm not a doctor, but I read about this and I tried it out, and I was like, well, actually, other way around. I went low oxalate first, not knowing it was low oxalate, did the carnivore diet, and then I had all this like things happened to me. It was all oxalate dumping. It was like weird rashes and stuff. And it was exactly what was being described because I switched away from having oxalates.
Were you having that many before?
Didn't matter. I had enough over the years that I was vegetarian for a while. So I had enough in my body built up. And
Sure.
some people take years for them to get rid of all the oxalates in their body. It was a book, I actually had it up on the shelf. It's called Toxic Superfoods by Dr. Sally Norton. She did it's quite a in-depth book with a bunch of studies. So we can have this challenge. I'd love for you to try 30 days.
You know what? I will try it because I've tried vegetarian.
Yeah.
I've tried David Avocado Wolf, his raw diet.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried paleo.
Have you tried carnivore?
I've tried carnivore.
So you do 30 days, nothing?
I don't think I still eat my vegetables.
See, that's the thing. You can't. That's.
But I was doing
that's
carnivore
keto.
with
That's keto.
vegetables.
That's
Okay,
keto.
keto.
That's ketovore.
Ketovore.
Do carnivore. Beef, salt, water, 30 days. That's it. And
Beef, salt, water, 30 days.
That's it. You can have eggs.
That's it. No chicken.
I stay away from chicken because it's chicken. The problem with chicken is unless you can find real pasture-raised chickens where they don't get fed any corn, you're gonna have high omega-6 levels in the fat.
What about seafood?
Seafood, if you can find, and I can show you where you can get it, but wild Alaskan caught salmon, that's fine. I do not eat farmed fish.
Okay.
Farmed fish is terrible.
What about shellfish?
Shellfish I have no problem with. However, shellfish does have high amounts of cholesterol because it's, not all of it, but things like crabs, they eat other fish and carcasses, and so the mercury builds up as well, and cholesterol's a little high in those as well. So, balance it out. But I spend a lot of time in this realm of
I mean, listen,
of food.
I've read half the if you look at my audiobook and my Audible and my books on my iPad and my phone, over 50% of them are in this exact arena.
Okay, cool. So we can.
So I've read them a ton.
Off camera, we can have a long conversation about this.
Yes.
But I would stay away from bacon as well. Bacon's got the same problem.
I don't eat bacon, so we're good there.
So you're good. Okay. So eggs, beef, salt for 1 month, and see whether you have any weird body issues where you start dumping. You get like rashes and It's
We're gonna talk offline on that one.
Yeah. Okay. So
I'm up for the challenge. I'm up for a challenge.
Okay, we'll do the challenge. I want, and then
But I'm about living to be 200.
Well, so a lot of the carnivore diet, the lifestyle is about lowering your insulin levels, and without taking any carbohydrates, your insulin levels really drop. Now, I don't think that's healthy for long periods of time. So I've added fruit in, whatever else. But being able to control your insulin through a combination of diet, intermittent fasting as well.
Which I do also.
And exercise. Yeah, I'm doing 19 hours a day now.
Okay, I don't do 19, but I try for 16 to 18.
That's perfect. So 16 is baseline.
Yeah.
If you can get a minimum of 16, you're good.
Because you get the extra fat burning and that starting
the
at
fat
12.
burners and the autophagy at 12.
Autophagy, that's right.
And then the autophagy really kicks in at about
18.
16. So then when you do 18, you're getting 2 hours of really good autophagy. And then
have you done a 3-day?
I've done a 2-day. Well, yeah, 46 hours or 44 hours.
Yeah, I haven't yet done.
The problem I have with the 2 days is like the second night of sleep, I can't go to bed because I just said no. It's hard to sleep without carbs.
I've been told once you get through that, the third day you feel amazing.
Yeah, I might try that next. Maybe you try the 30-day and I'll try the.
I'll do the 3-day with you.
Okay, we can try that.
And then we'll all do the 30 days.
We'll have to do it in January.
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay, so we'll pause this for a second.
Okay.
I want to go into your book.
Okay.
Tell me about the book you wrote, and first of all, why you wrote it, how long it took you.
Yeah, sure.
And just the key takeaway points. We'll link the book in the show notes.
So I was never going to write a book.
Okay.
Never thought about writing a book. It was never something I considered. I got hired by LinkedIn to do 2 courses. One's called Relationship Capital, and one's on No Marketing Money, No Problem. And my Relationship Capital course does way better than my other one. And a friend of mine is a book publisher, and he said, you should turn that into a book. I took the course. It was amazing. And I think you could add a lot of value. And, I talk about this a lot, but about 80 to 90% of all the wealth I've created in my life comes from who I know, not what I know. And you even mentioned earlier that I'm very good at building friends and selling to them again and again and again. I'm also very good at making friends with people at the top of industry. So if I start a business in an industry, I can rise to the top very quickly because I can work with my friends and friends help friends, right? Nepotism's real. We all have to realize that. So my course with LinkedIn.
I actually don't think I wouldn't characterize friendships as nepotism. I think nepotism is, if you really want to go to the extreme, friends helping friends, you might be able to call it cronyism. But nepotism, I think, specifically relates to familial links.
Sure, but I guess for me, when I say friends, I think of friends as family. Yeah, okay. That's my family. Because if you think about 8 billion people on the planet, there's 8 billion of us, right?
Sure.
And you may be friends with 100, 200 people. So you really have you don't know anybody in this world.
That's a good point.
And those 200 people, if they genuinely are your friend, not an acquaintance, but like genuinely your friend where they actually care about you, that's as good as family. Because I have aunts and uncles that I am way closer with my friends than I am with my aunts and uncles.
Yeah, we all have that.
Right? And cousins that I might have met twice in my life.
We all have that.
So I'm more likely to help my friend than my second or third removed cousin.
I think,
so I say it, but you're right. Definition-wise, you're right. But I say it that way.
And I'm trying to be pedantic here. It's like because I'm from South Africa, I can tell you, cronyism is a big problem in the country. And I think nepotism is a whole different set of things. And I think America, having lived here 15 years now, I actually think America is pretty good about business. People just don't do business with friends unless the product is good or the service is good. I see very little, like at least in the levels I operate in, favoritism and corruption. People aren't going to use their friend's product, which is inferior, which makes them look bad in front of their colleagues or their bosses or whatever else. It's
true. You're just looking at it, I guess. So I only do business with friends.
Yeah,
that's just a rule I have. Which means I can meet you today. We became friends after today. We can do business. I won't just come in and do real business with someone I just met, unless it's like a simple transaction. If it's a transaction, like if I'm buying a car at a car dealership, I don't need to be friends with the human.
Sure.
But when I talk about really doing business, and I'm not a transactional salesperson. I'm a relationship-based salesperson. So I'm building relationships, and that's what I'm all about. And so I don't mean corruption, but what I mean is at your company, if you had a job opening tomorrow for a chief of staff, I don't pick your title. You're not going to just bring in someone who's inept. But if you have a buddy who you know and love and trust, and you think that they're qualified or capable of doing the job, you're going to offer, and they need a job, you're going to offer it to them before you offer it to some stranger off the street.
So I'll delve into this. I've been there and I've hired friends before.
Sure.
But I've always never been the one making the decision. I've always said to my team, add him into the list. Review him with everyone else. I think he's good, but have a look. And sometimes they've hired them, sometimes they haven't. But I've never been the one to make the decision on that.
Okay.
Personally.
Yeah.
And in some cases, it's like, I always give the disclaimer to the friend, like, hey, we're buddies. I don't want to be. I'm not involved in this decision. So if it goes the wrong way, it's not on me. I will put your name on.
See, I'm the other way.
Yeah.
If I have a buddy who I love and trust, and they are qualified for the role, I don't need to go to a job search. They're getting the job.
Yeah.
And if it goes the wrong way, we're still going to love each other. And if we don't, it's because they weren't capable of doing the job. Because, again, I'm not going to screw my friend.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fire you just because I felt like firing you tomorrow. If you lose the job, it's because you didn't perform. You have to perform. I'm not saying you get to keep the job forever because we're friends. You get the opportunity first because we're friends. And I expect you to bring your best.
Yeah.
And that's what I hold all my people accountable to, because I bring my best. And that's the standard. And I let them know up front, these are our core values. This is how my company's run. This is the expectation. So if you're going to come and think you're just going to show up late because you're my buddy and you don't have to do and bring your absolute best, this is the wrong place for you.
I think it's different when I'm starting a company. Like I'll have a friend as a co-founder.
Yeah.
But when I'm hiring people, and just because I just don't manage people very well, I don't want to manage anyone. I'm like, if you come work here, you're not reporting to me. So whoever you're reporting to, they've got to make the hiring decision and the firing decision. And that's kind of the way I look at it.
Well, most people do say I don't do business with friends. Yeah. It's a common thing I hear. I'm just the opposite.
Okay.
That's
fine.
I'm a believer in trust and love.
Yeah.
And so I would rather work with friends. And again, it doesn't mean we can't become friends, but when I interview someone, I'm always about getting to know them. I don't care about your skills. I think experience is overrated in most things. So you give me someone with the right mindset, the right attention to detail, and the aptitude to want to be the best in whatever field. There's always exceptions. This is not the medical arena where we're formulating chemicals in a lab here. I'm selling acai bowls. I have a construction company. We did payroll and HR. These are not life and death decisions. So I'm saying that in the caveat of the type of businesses I run, I'm going to give you the opportunity because I know and trust you. So therefore, I know you're going to bring your best, or I assume you are.
And I don't think you're wrong. For the industries you've been in, it makes perfect sense.
But in life, it's that way. Like in professional sports, LeBron James, I was a sports agent. LeBron James hired his childhood best friend to be his agent. I was never going to get that opportunity.
Yep.
Right?
I agree.
So my point is, the more people you know, the more people who love you, the more opportunities are going to come your way in life. And so my book is called Relationship Bank Account, because all relationships are just like a bank account. People don't realize it. It's a ledger. You have it with your kids, your spouse, your parents, your siblings, or your cousins, your friends, your coworkers, your bosses, your investors, clients. So me and you have a bank account, a ledger between us. If every time we have an interaction, I'm asking for, I'm being late, I'm being rude, I'm not adding any value to your life, I have a negative bank account with you. And so you're like, he's calling me again, or Jeff needs another favor. Versus if everything I do around you is, who can I introduce you to help you? Oh, your new video conferencing software technology. Who in my network can I introduce to that? Your show. Who can I introduce to your show from an audience side? Who can I help you get as a guest? How can I help? How can I help? How can I help? Now all of a sudden you go, man, that Jeff guy, he's pretty cool. He helps me all the time. I have an abundance of capital with you in my bank account, or I'm wealthy. So if I ever need a favor and I call you, you'll be saying, yes, of course. Or more importantly, I don't have to ask you for a favor. What's going to happen is you're going to know about my businesses and you're going to say, hey, Jeff, a friend of mine's looking to buy a franchise. I told him about Everbowl. Here's his name. Out of the blue. Hey, Jeff, a friend of mine's building this retail concept. I know about WeBuild. Out of the blue. Hey, Jeff, I introduced somebody to your show because I thought they would be a great listener for you. You're just naturally going to be a promoter of me.
Like what you're saying resonates with me so strongly. I've never looked at it in terms of a bank account. I've looked at it in terms of an energy account.
Sure.
So
when I say bank account, because it's easier for people to.
I get it.
Analogy.
I get it, but I guess the point there is for me, it's always been about. So I look at money as a form of stored energy.
Yes, it is.
So people don't really think about it that way, but it really is.
It is.
It's one of the reasons
Especially
why
Bitcoin.
Sorry?
Especially Bitcoin.
Especially Bitcoin.
Which we can go down we can go spend a lot of time on.
Yeah, that's a whole different discussion again. But when I look at energy and I look at energy exchanges between people, and you look at the fundamentals of physics in this world, money is just simply a temporary store of value within society. It's like it's an agreed upon, a medium of exchange.
Yep.
And as an example, like it's kind of a weird thing, but I've stopped buying lottery tickets. You know why?
Because you're not going to win?
No, because it would create such a massive energy imbalance in my life. So
you're also not going to win. But
let's just say for the people who have won.
Sure.
If you look at the history of people who win lotteries,
they lose it like 4 years later.
But not just that, you get the winner's curse. You should go Google this, like lottery winner's curse. Like bad shit happens to them.
Well, it should, because of the astronomical chance of that happening is the same as like getting bitten by a shark.
Yeah, but it's not about that. It's about the there's this like weird energy imbalance where someone who wasn't like, imagine just getting $2 billion out of nowhere into your bank account.
Yeah,
you didn't earn it.
Of course,
you got very lucky, and so the universe gives, but it also takes away.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You hit like. Most people aren't going to hit the astronomical 1 in 300 million.
Yes, but for the person who does,
they can also hit the negative 1 in 300 million, which is the getting bitten by a shark.
Right, but no. But I'm saying when the one happens, the other needs to like. There's just like somehow everything I've noticed in this world, the universe balances out energy for everyone. And it doesn't always make sense to us, and we can't understand it. But there's always this weird energy balance that I find. So. I think people who find harmony in life and a bit of gratitude for what they have are the happiest people because they found a way to balance their energies.
Well, because I think what they find, and I was guilty of this, I used to think the second I made my first $1 million, I was going to be happy. And I was after it. I was hungry. I want to be a millionaire. And then I made $1 million and I wasn't happy. It didn't change my happiness. For a minute it did.
Yeah.
But then I was like.
Now you went 10.
Yes. But also it didn't make you happy.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh my gosh, now all the problems and things that made me upset yesterday, they still make me upset today. I don't like sitting in traffic. Yeah. The same things of life. And then you realize the money wasn't really it's the experience and the journey of acquiring it.
Yeah.
And the day-to-day enjoyment of life. And now all of a sudden you become happy because you realize you get the abundance of all these things without needing the result. And it's not, I don't know if you hike, But, I hiked to the top of Mount Whitney, and I was like, oh, when I get to the top. And I got to the top, and it was cool. But you know what I look back and think most fondly of that hike? Was the 11-hour hike of up and down. Like the time with my buddies, doing the hike, that was the fun part. It's the same in business, it's the same in life. And so the result of getting $2 billion in your pocket tomorrow, you didn't do anything for it. So it's like...
But I guess for me, it's like when you create these distortions of energy in the world, it's the same as the bank account situation. Like if you're always giving, it's going to come around back to you.
Of course.
And if you're always taking,
it's going to come around.
Exactly.
And that's why I'm lucky.
Think of in the world, think of your energy balance as these two scales. And you got to try and keep them in balance the whole time. And sometimes what happens is you give. And, you think, oh, well, no one's there to help me. And then all of a sudden someone helps you.
Which is why I think it's important. And that's why I use the analogy in my book about the bank account, because if you go through life trying to lead with value and help as many people and make as many friends as you can, you start to get this thing that others will call luck.
Yes.
And, my friends always joke and say I have Fenster luck because things fall in my lap. But they fall in my lap because I spend my days making friends with as many people as I can, leading with value, being more interested in them and helping them as much as I can. And I learned this lesson with my payroll business, because when I was doing my payroll business, and I'll share this story, the first big client I ever got was from the checkout clerk at Albertsons. And everyone looks at me like, only you would get lucky enough to get that from that person. But for 18 months, I'm going to the same Albertsons once a week. I have a little daughter. The same couple people work there. You start to know their faces. I can ignore them and check out, or I can say, hey, how are you? How's your day? And get a little bit of conversation and humanization going. And I learned that she had a couple dogs and goes to Dog Beach. She knew I had a kid in a payroll business and a young business owner, and that was it. We never went out for coffee. We never left Albertsons. But one day she says, hey, my brother's having a payroll issue. He was venting about it. You have a payroll company. Can I give him your number? Can you help him? I said, yes. I don't mind. I'd expect nothing from it. Or her brother had a massive company that ended up being a 6-figure recurring revenue account for me, that after I did all this free help to help him, he gave me the business. So my company that was predominantly focusing on 1 to 60 employee size companies was now doing 1,000 employee size company. So now I can start calling the hundreds and 200s and say, well, we work with clients much bigger than you. You're not my biggest fish. I now know the problems, and now I elevate, and my company almost doubled its revenue from the checkout clerk at Albertsons. And then you realize everybody is someone's brother, sister, aunt, cousin, friend, nephew, neighbor. And so the more people I make friends with, regardless of what I think or perceive their value to be to me now, creates more people in the world who are thinking about me in some capacity. And if they come across an opportunity that they can connect me to, and they like me, and to your point, my ledger, my balance is higher in helping and less in taking, they're more inclined to say, you need to talk to Jeff.
Yeah, so funny, like this is a great conversation, because when I started this podcast, the main motivation for doing it was just giving back. Like, I don't have any sponsors. I put up my own company just for fun, but I don't have any sponsors. I'm not trying to make money. I'm not trying to sell anything to anyone. It's just like free content out there for people to enjoy, because I really feel it's important just to give back. And just give freely, and whatever happens, happens. If someone happens to see an episode that, hey, you know what, you should go and check this episode out, and someone stumbled onto my company, great, and they contact us, they want to get some software, fantastic. But that's not the reason for doing it.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah, and it's probably the same reason why you do your show.
I do my show for 2 reasons. Number one, I wanted to have these kinds of... I do all of them in person in my studio because I want one-on-one relationship building.
Same.
And I don't do video either. Yep.
I don't do video.
You're going to come and sit in my studio.
I got a video conferencing company,
and I
don't do video calls for my podcast.
Because you lose so much with that.
Absolutely.
I've been a guest on hundreds of podcasts, and I swear to you, the only ones that the people that I genuinely have a real relationship with are the ones I got to sit across from.
Exactly. I feel the same way.
And get this time before we talk, while we talk,
and
after.
I fly guests in. I put them up like, hey, come into the studio, because you can't build this sort of rapport.
Correct.
Over a screen.
You can't.
Yeah.
You really can't. Yeah. So I do it for that reason. And number 2, it's because I do want to give back. I mean, once you've made enough money to where you don't need the money, and I say that because people who need the money go, you don't know what you're talking about. Exactly. I was there. Okay, I was broke. I moved in with my parents. I get it. But once you've achieved that, what's next is you make and enjoy life more when you're helping other people. Yeah. And if I can give a little bit of advice to someone, or be on a show where the conversation inspires them to go, get healthy, if based on our conversation,
Yeah.
right? Use your technology or eat an Everbowl or start their business or have the confidence to take action or just start making friends in the world. I did good today.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that. And it fills my cup. So I'm with you. And so my book is all about helping people learn to stop networking and make friends. And the problem that is they try to network.
I like that.
And it doesn't get you where you want to get. And that's how I've been able to partner with the Neil Patels and the Drew Breeses and the Shaquille O'Neals and the Gary Vaynerchuks and the Dan Fleischmans. And David Meltzers. They're all my friends. I do business with them all. So it makes me get to elevate my companies. And they go, well, yeah, but I don't know those people. Yeah, but you can. You just got to start now in whatever town you live in, no matter how big or small, no matter where in the world. Start making friends with people. And the more friends you make, the more introductions you're going to get. And if you lead with value, and my book teaches you how to do it. It's not fluff. It's tactical. It's like specifics. Like it's a path. Like if you follow it and read it and follow it, you can do and duplicate what I've been able to do because I learned it.
Well, I know you're going to give me a copy for future episodes.
Of course.
It
has to.
I'll stick it up.
I can't believe I didn't bring you one.
It's all cool. I'll read it. But I want to ask you a question, actually. So I struggle with large events.
Okay.
When I say I struggle, I go to them. I just see no value in like these 50, 100, 200 person events where I know a couple people have to wander around a room. And for me, that's not networking. I prefer, and I host dinners often.
Yeah.
I bring like 8, 10, 12 people into a room and I host events and I try and network that way. And I always have new people I haven't met or haven't spent much time with before come to the event or wine's a passion of mine. So it's always like, hey, I'm going to bring some good wine tasting, etc. And I curate these events. And when I get invited to big things, I often just say no because it doesn't fill my cup. How do you feel about that? Do you like the big events?
No.
Okay.
Same thing because I want one-on-one.
Yeah.
So if we're in a group of 100 people and I'm going to get just FaceTime really quick shakes.
Yeah.
You know, like will I go to some of them? Of course. Like if you invited me to 100, I want to build a better relationship. I'm going to come.
Yeah.
But my goal there is very minute. And this is what I would tell the audience.
I think special events are different, like birthday parties.
No, but I mean, I'm talking about your type, the big networking.
Yeah.
I would say,
networking events.
I would say pick 2 people and just focus on trying to build a relationship with 2 people.
So actually, one of the little tricks that I can give to the audience here and tell you what I used to do over my career, because I built a pretty big network of friends and people I know just around the world, Silicon Valley, whatever, South Africa. I would go to a lot of events in the Bay Area when I lived there. We're talking about, and even throughout the US, whenever there's conferences, you go to events. And when I went to an event, I would go long enough to have a 30-minute to an hour conversation with someone interesting. And once I met one person, got the details, exchanged, I would leave.
Yep. So I met 2.
You had 2, okay.
Yeah.
So for me, it was always minimum 1.
Okay.
But like sometimes it was 2.
Yeah.
But if until I met one person, made one relationship, and I would leave no matter the size of the event. Above a certain number, like call it 50 people, whatever. Because I just didn't see the value staying further. But what that did do was it allowed me to create a very strong, big network of people, personal connections. Mm-hmm. Because it's like having a one-on-one meeting. It's like having a lunch with someone.
That's right.
And so you kind of filter through it. And I think the people, when I go to these events, I see guys like, especially the young guys, and they just like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes here. They don't build a connection with anyone. And I'm on the receiving end sometimes where a guy comes up to me, shoves his card in my face. Hey, I'm with this company. I work here. I do that. Great. Thank you. Okay. See you later. Bye.
Yeah, and the card goes in the trash and you forget about him.
Exactly. So that like deep personal relationship thing is something I've really focused a lot on. And it's quite surprising how it adds up over time. Because
it compounds.
It compounds.
Yes.
You do it for 1 year and you think it's not that like, well, let's say you do like 50 events in a year. You meet maybe 50 people and there's a lot of drop off, whatever. People live in different places, but you make these connections. But if you do it over 10 years and you do it over 20 years, now it's thousands of people that you've built at least some meaningful connection with.
And if you do it outside of events, like when you're in the Uber, talk to your Uber driver.
Yeah.
When you're in the restaurant, ask your waiter 3 questions. Yeah. Be more interested in them. Ask them a question about themselves.
I need to be better at that. I think I'm very, like when I jump in an Uber, I'm very much in like work mode.
So I was in wherever I am. I mean, I can give you the last one. I was in Madison, Wisconsin. My videographer, Andrew, and me are in an Uber. And I'm talking to the guy. And when I get in, the Uber guy didn't want to talk to me. But I was talking to him anyway because I make friends with him. And finally, he told me where to go to dinner.
Yeah.
Then we get to talking about scuba diving and find out he's a scuba diver. I'm a scuba diver. He loves Cozumel. I love Cozumel.
Yeah.
He's got a place in Cozumel. By the end of our 25-minute Uber,
He's inviting you there.
he gave me his number. He said, anytime you want to stay in Cozumel, you can stay in my place.
That's amazing.
So a little Uber drive in a new city for 20 minutes, 25 minutes from the airport to the hotel. I now have a place and a friend in Cozumel to dive with.
Yeah.
And I knew the best restaurant to go to in Madison. That's what I got out of it. And I didn't ask those things. I was a human. People with technology, we've gone away from what we actually all want. We all want real conversations and real connections.
Yeah.
So how do you foster them? Well, if you go to an event where everyone's guard is up and everybody wants that,
And everyone's trying to sell to you.
it's not the right environment. In an Uber, when the guy or girl's been driving all day, and maybe they're like, whatever, and no one else talks to them, you talk to them, and now they're like, that was really an enjoyable conversation about somebody. And we can learn something from everybody. Everybody has value to give you. And that's the other mistake that people make is they look and say, I don't know this person, therefore they have no value to me.
I want to ask you another question.
Yeah.
What do you do when someone either doesn't reciprocate or doesn't show gratitude for something you've done for them?
I don't care.
Do you still reinvest in the relationship?
Of course. Until they break one of my non-negotiables.
So what are those?
Well, number one, it's loyalty and honesty.
Okay.
So don't steal,
Sure.
you have to be a human.
Yeah.
But I don't need gratitude. I don't need you to say thank you. I don't need you to reciprocate. I'm willing to keep giving as long as you're a good human being and I believe in what you're doing. Because if you were doing something like that I was against, I'm out. And you don't burn the bridge, which is the loyalty bridge. I mean, I'm a big believer in loyalty. It's even like the number one thing I care the most about, which means I have your best interest at heart, you have mine. That's all it means.
Well, what do you think about people who just take?
I think they're in a position in life where they haven't figured it out yet. So if they're going to keep taking, that's fine. I mean, I might give less over time, but I'm not going to stop giving just because they're only a taker. It doesn't, unless it affects me in my life in a way that I can't keep doing it, right? But if it's
here's an example. Like, and let's say, for example, you invite someone to a dinner, like 5 dinners in a row, right?
Yep.
And then you realize he hosted a dinner and he didn't invite you. How would you feel?
it wouldn't bother me.
Okay.
It really wouldn't.
Okay.
The only way it would bother me is if I explicitly said, "Hey, at dinner you're having, I'd love to go because there's someone I want to meet."
Okay.
And then if he excluded me or she excluded me, I'd feel a little different. But if it was just a curated and they feel like they already know me and are getting into my circle and they don't need me in theirs, it's okay because I don't look at one relationship that way. I look at it as a total macro.
Yeah, I've become a bit more guarded about that sort of thing, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just maybe a little bit older.
No, you're not that much older.
I know. I'm just saying.
Were you 79 or 80?
200.
No, what year were you born? 79 or 80?
I thought you meant age.
No, you're what, 44?
44.
Yeah, I'm 40. So what are you 79?
Yeah, 79, yeah.
Yeah. 83.
83. Okay, so when I
No,
say...
not 79 years old.
No, that's what I thought you said. Like, what, does that look 79?
You need metformin.
Yeah, apparently. No, I think as I'm getting older, I my time is so precious that I'd rather invest more time in fewer relationships.
Okay.
So, like, I got to that point where I've had the big circles of friends,
Sure.
I've had the big networks, and they're still friends I can get hold of and ping and whatever else. But I find myself investing more time with fewer people.
I mean, I think at a personal level, I agree with you.
At a personal level.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about this more when I'm hanging out on a Saturday at my house, I'm not inviting 2,700 people to my house.
Sure.
Right? I have a select group of family friends that are my closest family friends, and we do life together that way. But in my business life of friends, and I'll say that like if I'm curating a dinner,
Yes.
or I'm hosting a private event, or I have a VIP dinner, and I can invite people to come to it, I'm going to invite a lot of people.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good distinction. So I think I'm probably referring more to personal life.
And when I say friends, I don't necessarily mean personal life. I mean, because most people don't have personal friends. Most people have acquaintances and business friends. It's just the reality when you're an adult.
Yeah.
We just are or you have your kids' parents.
You have a few personal friends.
Yeah, but most people's fear when we think about it is, who do I know who can help my business? Who do I know who can help my career? Who do I know who can help me make money or open doors? Those friends, which we'll call business friends, I like to have lots of them.
Yeah.
I like to give as much as I can, and I want as many of them to say, that guy's cool. He always helps. How can I help him? And if I can do things for people, I will.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take out debt to go help somebody who I just
Oh
met.
no, I'm with you. Like I've angel invested in over 200 companies. So I've got these CEOs who I've invested in, and they can ping me anytime, 24/7, text me, whatever they want. I'm happy to help. And I've got people who've like pitched me in the past that said no, and they'll ping me and say, "Can I?" And I'll still help them as well.
Sure.
So I think when it comes to the business side of things, you want to be as open as possible to helping as many people as possible. And
Yes.
the one caveat is I always tell anyone I invest in is like, look, I can't be knocking on your door every day asking you how you need help. When you need help, you get hold of me, and I'm on demand. And like, so don't expect it to be me chasing you to help you. It needs to be you knowing that you can always reach out to me to help you.
Correct. And I'll say my biggest thing that will have me stop helping is if you ask me for help and I help, and you don't take the advice, but then you ask me again later with the same problem, and I give you the same advice that you've never tried, and you still don't implement it,
don't come back a third time.
We're done with this conversation.
Yeah.
You clearly just want to
And that happens often.
More than you believe.
So often.
Yeah, where it's like, look, you don't have to follow my advice.
Yeah.
I don't care. But don't ask me twice for the same question in a different way, and I give you the advice, but you don't even try it. Because it works.
I think I'm the king of I told you so. Okay,
I'm gonna get you a shirt.
I actually should get that. I'm gonna. You give me the shirt and I'll wear it on the show.
Deal.
Yeah, I told you so.
Yes, I'm gonna get you the shirt.
Sounds good. Okay, let's get some rapid fire questions.
Let's go.
What's your favorite book?
Tim Grover, Relentless.
Tim Grover, Relentless. I haven't read that.
Okay.
What's this quick summary of that one?
Tim Grover was Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant's coach.
Okay.
It's into the mindset of, and he breaks down the difference between basically closers, which is what we all think of, and cleaners, which is the top 1%. Okay. And he really figured out and shares the mindset of the highest achieving and highest performers in the world at their craft and how they think and how they approach life. Fantastic book.
Okay, great. What's your go-to habit that you think everyone should implement in their daily life?
I exercise every single day, no matter what.
What time of the day do you do that?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
So if I'm traveling and I get home at 11:30 at night after eating sushi and sake, I'm at least putting 20 minutes of cardio and my heart rate at a certain level.
Do you focus on zone 2?
I have to. I'm in a challenge.
Okay.
I'll caveat. This is a bet I did with a friend of mine who's the CEO of a gym chain, and we can see each other. So if I don't do it, he can see it.
Yeah.
So, but we have to be a minimum of 70% of our max heart rate.
Okay, so it's like zone 3-ish.
Yeah, ish. And you have to have cumulative 20 minutes. So it's not 20 minutes, you're done. Were you at that or higher for 20 minutes? And as you get in better shape, it's harder and harder, and you exert more energy. So
yeah, I've been listening to and reading a lot more about Peter Attia's.
Yeah, sure.
Because he focuses on two things: zone 2 and zone 5.
He's actually against metformin now.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm also against it.
Yeah.
He's somewhat I like his stuff a lot. That's why I've been skeptical of metformin. But
Have you followed Dr. David Sinclair?
I have, and he's kind of gone quiet for a while. So it's like, a lot of people have sort of dispelled some of the things he's been saying, and he then kind of been hiding away. So I'm like, okay.
Well, he's data driven, so unless he has a study to prove it, he's not going to say anything.
And then the whole NAD plus NMN sort of debacle. I mean, I'm still in the NA. I'm still in the NR camp.
Okay.
Like I think I use True Niagen.
Yep.
I think it's great. Like I'm happy that the
You know
results
Jen?
are good. No, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, but I like the product.
Yeah.
I need to have my levels tested again soon. But anyway, we digress.
Yeah, sorry. You went to one of my favorite topics. Keep going.
What's the best bit of financial advice you've ever received?
I've ever received or implemented?
Ooh, both.
The best advice I ever received was to invest a minimum of 10% of every dollar I ever earned when I was younger. The best advice I ever implemented was Bitcoin, and it was many years ago.
What year?
I bought my first bit of Bitcoin in 2013.
Same.
Lost it all because I invested in I used one of those trading platforms there. It would buy and sell.
One, BTCE or?
I don't remember because it went belly up and it was gone.
Yeah.
Then I bought more in 2017.
Okay.
Sold it in 2018.
Okay.
Thought I was smarter than the world.
Yeah.
Wish I never sold any of it. And then bought more in 2019 and been buying ever since.
Yeah.
But we talk about sound money and the movement of energy.
Yep.
And if you really understand how money works and civilizations fall and how currency and value and the true source of energy movement, there's nothing better.
I buy Bitcoin every week.
I buy Bitcoin
Yeah.
very, very frequently. Sometimes a couple times a week.
You can do it like a weekly. So what I recommend to people buying Bitcoin today is you can't time the top, you can't time the bottom. Just put in a small amount every week that you're comfortable with, or every month on the same day, and just cost average.
Dollar cost average is good. I would recommend that you buy as much as you can afford right now,
Yeah.
and then dollar cost average from there.
It's good. It depends how much you have already. Like some people.
I mean, there's no. The answer is not enough.
Well,
Michael Saylor still doesn't have enough.
Yeah, I know, but he's running more of a fund. I think for some people, when you like, I've seen people get 80-90% exposed to Bitcoin, crypto, and then everything tanks and they lose a lot. So
Well, it depends what you're doing. If you need the money, it's not an investment; it's a trade.
Yeah.
Investments are money you shouldn't need.
You shouldn't need, exactly.
That's why I think that it's important that everyone understand when you say the word invest, if you put money into something that you may need in the next 4 or 5 or 6 years, you're not investing, you're trading.
Yeah.
And I'm not a trader.
Well, I think 6 or 7 years is probably an investment. Like I think that's a good investment horizon. I think a trade.
I'm saying if you need it short, like if you need it in 2 years or less.
It's a trade.
It's a trade. No one can predict.
Yeah.
A macro event like a black swan event like COVID could kill something.
I always tell people to keep 18 months cash on hand for living expenses, because too many people, what they do is they make investments.
Yep.
And then they need that cash to live on, and they have to sell the investments at inopportune times.
Correct.
And so make sure you always have 18 months cash on hand. 12 is a minimum, but 12 to 18 months cash on hand. And then anything excess, then start putting it away for, like, think of your needs in terms of a waterfall. What do I need for 18 months? What do I need for in 3 years? What do I need in 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, 20 years? And then basically stagger your cash in such a way that when you have excess, you're pushing it further and further out the curve.
There you go. Yeah. That's a good model.
Yeah.
I mean, I like thinking that way, because I think not enough Americans invest.
Yes.
They don't understand. Some of them trade. They trade and they try to, and it doesn't work, and then they go, this isn't for me. I don't know how to do it. Yeah. And they fail to realize that the only way to, unless you're going to be an entrepreneur and have that windfall exit, the only way to get out of the wealth gap problem is investing.
Yeah.
It's the only way.
But you got to start by building up you build up your 3-month bucket, your 12-month bucket, your 18-month bucket, then go 24, 36. And I see a lot of people, the mistake they make, in my opinion, is investing for 40 years from now and not having enough to live on right now.
Agreed too, like a 401k.
Yeah, and also just living poorly, living badly, and trying to say you can't save your way to wealth. There's no way. You have to invest, or you have to be an entrepreneur.
And I don't like the idea of people who spend all this money on the immediacy of having $100,000. If you have a $100,000 car, if your car that you own is worth more than your investments, you have it wrong. Yeah, it's just bottom line.
Absolutely.
Like I have so many friends that they make good money. They're not. They haven't had a sale or an exit. So they make good money, but they drive extremely expensive vehicles and they have nothing invested. And I'm like, well, you realize that in 4 years, that vehicle is worth half of what you paid for it, and you're still killing yourself. But if you would have put that money in something that was accretive in value, you could have bought that car in 4 years and it would have cost you nothing, just off the value obtained from your investments. And it doesn't matter whether it's watches, cars, high-end real estate, stocks, crypto.
Yeah,
I mean,
when I sold my company, my third company, I sold it in 2014. We sold at a pretty good exit. It was north of $50 million. It was a big exit.
It's a good number.
Yeah, it was great.
Congrats.
Thank you. And I really wanted a McLaren.
You had just sold a company for $50 million. This is the person making 150 to 300 grand a year.
No. And so just put in perspective here, the 50 was shareholders and everyone else, co-founders, the whole lot. So it wasn't all mine, but I could afford one.
Sure.
I could have bought one cash. I didn't. I put the money in a bank. Not a bank. I put the money in an investment, and I bought a McLaren 5 years later with the profits of that. I was like, and it's just one of those things, right? I got to the point where I realized, like, look, I could splurge this money, or I can invest it really wisely and then use the proceeds of it. And I actually learned this trick from Rich Dad Poor Dad's book.
Yeah, Robert Kiyosaki.
Kiyosaki's book. Yeah, I read a book in 2000 era. Maybe he wrote a couple of them. And I was like, look, it's better to, when you make money, reinvest it, and then the proceeds of that you can spend some of it.
That's right.
And then spend a portion of it and reinvest the rest. So, I've been guilty of making the other mistake of over investing, and not having enough short term liquidity.
I like that better than overspending and not investing.
Exactly.
But I will say, unless you are living paycheck to paycheck and you need a vehicle, and you're financing a vehicle that is not extremely extravagant. If you're buying an extravagant vehicle and you're financing it, you're making a huge mistake.
Yes.
Because you clearly can't afford it. Yeah. And you don't need to show up for anybody. Go rent one for a day if you really want to get your socks off and but when you build that wealth. Yeah. Because in 5 years from now, that money that you just threw away on a $2,000 a month financed whatever car you want, I don't care, a Lamborghini. Probably more today.
I actually did that. I rented a Lambo.
Sure.
After I sold my company.
Sure.
Like, I paid $2,000 for the day.
But you also just sold a company, right?
I know.
You're an outlier.
Yes.
You're the example that they're trying to live like, but they can't afford.
A book I think people should definitely read is Rich Dad Poor Dad. Book.
Oh, for sure.
Like if anyone's watched this, if you haven't read that book, you should watch it. You read it because what's really critical about that is it teaches you about cash flow and how important that is.
Yep.
And so I think what you're saying and what I'm saying is that when you don't have the money to go and you don't have enough money to invest for your 12-month, 18-month, 36-month bucket of wealth and cash flow, spending all that short-term money on a car makes no sense at all.
Yeah, or credit card debt.
Yeah, credit card debt's another
Like
one.
you should have no debt outside of if your personal residence, if you buy.
Yeah.
And
well, property debt's fine if you investing in property.
I'm saying if you are not where you want to be financially, you should not carry credit card debt. You should do your best to not have automobile debt. There are used vehicles that you can buy and get you through, and you don't need to show. No one's impressed.
Yeah.
No one's impressed.
No.
No one looks at someone with a Ferrari and goes, they go for 2 seconds, like, oh, that's a really nice car. And then they move on with their day.
Absolutely.
You get nothing for it. But if you own 10 properties that are cash flowing and you can buy that thing free and clear and let other people pay for it.
That's in the book. I mean, Kiyosaki talks about exactly the situation where buy the property and use the cash flows from the property to buy the car.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That was my investing answer. Long.
Thanks.
That wasn't rapid.
Give me a common misconception about business or life that you'd like to set the record straight on.
Business that experience is a requirement.
Okay.
So experience is the most overrated prerequisite to starting a company or being successful. And life, that people think that life, they overcomplicate life. They don't have a formula to follow. And life is very simple if you know what you want. So you got to spend time having clarity and say, okay, what do I want out of life? I'm in business, entrepreneurship's my thing. That's fine. A lot of money, business. I like those things. Some people don't. They want quiet, mountains, serenity. Figure out what you want. Work backwards to get it. The path is not that hard to do. Everything has been done by humans just like us. And it's obtainable for you. You can live the life you want and live with the purpose and enjoyment. You just need to have clarity of what you want and then work backwards to get it. And I think not enough people spend the time to do that exercise. And instead, they just kind of put their head in the sand.
I always recommend people look at the Japanese ikigai concept. I know you spend a lot of time looking at that.
Kaizen's one of my core values.
Okay, great. So ikigai,
it's number 3.
Yeah. So it's the whole notion of like finding what you're good at, what you can make a living out of, what the world needs. All these things come together in ikigai. I think it's a really good, powerful concept for someone who's still trying to figure out who they are. Yeah. And what and even for people who already have, just like reinforce who you are. It's a good one. Okay.
And my last one is that life's fair. Everyone gets upset that life's not fair. Life's not meant to be fair.
Yeah.
Fair is not it's just not real.
Yeah.
And when you no longer expect life to be fair and you don't want life to be fair and you accept the fact that it's just not a fair place, then you don't let that negative emotion kind of carry with you and you get out of that victimhood and you start to move and progress.
I mean, not to get too spiritual or religious, but I always feel that, keeping score is not the job of humans.
It's true. Fair.
I think it sits on a different plane of existence where the universe, God, whatever spirits we have in this world, that's their job.
Well, and how do you keep score when you don't even know if we're playing the same game?
Right. Yeah. But
right.
Yeah, exactly. No, but like we don't like you can look at someone like Putin, for example, and you go, okay, well, he runs Russia. He's whatever you want to call him. Why is he so? Why is he so wealthy? Why is he having a good time in Russia? Why is his life so good? And meanwhile, he's doing. But that's not our job.
And you also don't know that all those things are true. That's what you see.
Yeah.
That's the media and what you get access to. You don't know if he's in a home where he has no relationship with his family and he's stressed beyond belief and he's miserable and lonely. We don't know.
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, I don't know how to keep score against you and against anyone else.
Like I said, keeping score is not the job of humans.
And we're all playing a different game.
So just play the game. Play it the best way you can.
Play your game.
Yeah, play your game. I mean, think of this as like if you're playing a video game, okay, just make the best decisions you can for yourself.
Right. That's right.
Stop worrying about everyone else.
That's right.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Last one.
Okay.
If you could go back in time and meet one person in history, who would it be and why?
So I have a lot of answers for this question.
Just any one.
I know. So I'm going to think of my best one because I know it's rapid fire. I would say gosh, there's so many dang choices. It's so hard to pick one. I'd go Rockefeller for this answer.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Did you watch All the Money in the World?
No, but I watched The Men Who Built America.
Okay.
I would want to meet Rockefeller because he did one thing at a time, and I thought it was one of the most ballsy things I've ever heard of a business owner doing, and at the magnitude and scale. And for those who don't know, with kerosene and what he created, and he had to move it around the country. And in order to make sure he could move it around the country, he guaranteed that he was going to fully book all the trains so he could get the trains. But he didn't have enough product and he didn't have enough buyers. And it could have bankrupted him. And yet he took that chance. And I just want to get into the psyche of a man at the time in that era when he, in a way, he's like to modern day Elon Musk, right? He's innovating in like Mars and Neuralink, and he's doing things that there's no track record for. And being somebody who builds better versions of Me Too businesses, right? I don't innovate some brand new Neuralink that we're going to put something in your brain.
Yeah.
I'm not sending people to Mars. So if it was today, I'd want to meet Warren Buffett because he's still alive and I want to sit down with him. Normally my answer would be Kobe Bryant because I like the psychology of him. I've never used the answer of Rockefeller, but he's on my list of people that I study, I'm interested in. And people think of him in very, very, very different ways. But the courage and the audacity to do what he did at the time, I just want to understand how he thinks. I want to see, and if I can get into his brain and see the perspective he was using at that time, it'd just be fascinating to me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, this conversation will be fascinating.
Yes.
Jeff, thank you for joining me, and it's been great to have you on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. This has been an awesome experience. I love the name of the show, Vinny Vidi Vici.
Thank you.
You're incredible, and I really appreciate you inviting me onto the end of the show to meet your audience.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you, Jeff.